Speaking of sales pitches, a lot of people are trying to sell me on this. And I know the snap reaction, right? Mike Budenholzer got fired, which I think was a surprise to a lot of people, general fans in the NBA fandom. And the reaction here was about the reaction that you would expect. Everybody drop everything and go get Mike Budenholzer. He had 2 years, $16 million left on his contract with the Milwaukee Bucks. Obviously had Giannis. They won an NBA chip, all those kinds of things. Sam Flannel, you running to the phone and lobbing the phone call?
I would lob the phone call. I mean, the reality is Mike Budenholzer has one of the best recent resumes of any head coach in the NBA. I mean, he was a champion with the Milwaukee Bucks, albeit a lot of that had to do with guys like Giannis and Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton. I understand he had a talented team, but I think he also gets penalized a little bit unfairly for the recent playoff flameouts. I mean, the last season they played the entire series against Boston without Chris Middleton. They lost in 7. This season, I understand that there's no real legitimate excuse as a 1 seed to lose to an 8, but in 2 of those games, Giannis Antetokounmpo didn't play, and in one of those games, he went out early and missed most of the game. So I believe in my heart of hearts that if Giannis Antetokounmpo plays, the Milwaukee Bucks are still in the playoffs, and Mike Budenholzer never gets fired.
I don't care about any of that.
Okay.
All right? I don't. And here's, again, the thinking man's fan, as I was called earlier. Do you think for a second that Bucks management, when they say, hey, we're going to move on from Mike Budenholzer and it's a day, do you think for a second, or there's any world where they don't hit up Giannis and be like, Giannis, this is what we're thinking about doing?
I mean, they
do
would
you think that?
No, they would be smart to get their superstar player and their franchise player's approval.
And I'm not saying that they're going to him for permission. I'm not saying that. But you are taking his input. Sure. And you're taking it into account. And just for me, Flannel, having 2 years left on the deal, recently have winning an NBA championship. And Chuck Brewer says, I've seen him get out coached in the playoffs many, many times, hard pass. My reason for the hard pass is because, again, going back to it, and Brandon Katz says Giannis isn't the type of player who would ask for a coach to be fired. Brandon, ride with me for a second here. That's not what I'm saying. If you think for a minute Bucks ownership doesn't get arguably the biggest star in the game, arguably, his input on it, you're crazy. In the Milwaukee market, you're crazy. A supermax guy, you're crazy. Yes, they're going to get his input. And I'll tell you, here's why it's telling to me. Having recently won a chip, having had all the success they've had, something is up. That's it. And that something is up. I can't tell you what. I'm not in the room. I don't know. All I know is Giannis didn't exactly say, no, man, that's my guy. We're riding with him. Giannis just took the proverbial puff of a cigarette and moved on.
And that's fair. But at the same time, and this is where I'm coming from, and I'm not saying it as somebody who wants them to throw the bag at Mike Budenholzer and have them be the number one target. Coaches with this kind of a resume aren't usually just available for a team to go get, a team like the Detroit Pistons, who have been bottom feeders for the last 4 years. I mean, it's not just what he did in Milwaukee. He was also coach of the year in Atlanta. I know that they never won anything big, but he also led a team with Kyle Korver, Jeff Teague, Paul Millsap, and Al Horford to the best record in the East, where they eventually lost to LeBron in the playoffs. But still, that's a damn good accomplishment. And to parlay that with his experience as a San Antonio Spurs assistant, where he had a lot of success working under Greg Popovich. I'm just saying, you lob the phone call. It's not like this guy can't coach. And it's not like there weren't legitimate reasons why the Bucks didn't go farther in the playoffs the last 2 seasons. And it's not like he didn't win multiple coaches of the year, didn't win a championship. You at least make the phone call, especially given the fact that Charles Lee, if I'm Charles Lee, I want the Bucks job now. I don't want the Pistons job. He was one of the top targets. So to me, you at least take Mike Budenholzer into consideration. A Mike Budenholzer who maybe someday will be in the Hall of Fame. I know that sounds crazy now. Look at the resume.
Chuck Brewer in the WoodwardSports.com chat thread says, and this is very relevant. And I agree 1,000%. If Giannis wanted him to stay as a coach, he would still be the coach today. And that's it, Sam Flannel, for me. And here's the parallel. Here's where I'm going to bring it all in. Because Corbin says, I'm a month into Woodward Sports. I must say I'm getting scared the Pistons talk is seeping more and more into the Brad Holmes love instead of Tiger talk seeping in. Lots to discuss with the Tigers. Well, Corbin, we still have that going on right now. The Tigers will get their deal if they deem themselves relevant to it. You still got to remember, they're a pretty mid baseball team, and I think we're gonna have. But you know what, Corbin, stick around in the second hour because we got a starting rotation coming up for you. 5 questions about your Detroit Tigers. So I expect you, Corbin, to stick around for that. But here's the deal: I'm gonna land the plane now with the Budenholzer thing. The Giannis thing is real. Is that fair?
Oh, it should be.
Okay, it should be.
One of the best players in the NBA.
So I'm not coming from outer space with this take. Okay. So if it is, you plan to be in a very similar spot, right? With the Detroit Pistons, with Cade Cunningham, he's going to be your guy, right?
That's the hope. Yeah.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
It's got to be. So I'm not in that space where the Budenholzer thing, for whatever reason, he's not there anymore. I'm not interested in it because, and look, somebody earlier said it. Giannis isn't the type of guy to get a coach fired. So how bad must it have been for Giannis to say, peace out, Mike?
Well, you also have to wonder, too, and I'll kind of piggyback off of that. Mike Budenholzer, when he got fired, I was very, very surprised. I thought that he had obviously done enough to earn at least some leash, and he gets fired 2 years after winning a championship when both playoff runs were definitely hurt by injury. It does say something, though, that you have to wonder, was there an injustice or why? Was it really that bad behind the scenes? Do the players, does the management, do they really think that Mike Budenholzer cost them games, cost them series with his coaching? Because there have been instances, particularly against the Miami Heat, a series which they still should have won, where there were some questionable decisions. I mean, losing to an 8 seed as a 1 seed, even with your superstar being out for half the series, that is alarming. That is the type of thing that you might, in some circumstances, say is a fireable offense. I don't necessarily think so, but there's got to be a legitimate reason. I will ride with you on that.
But yeah, Brandon Katz says, Neal is recency bias. Giannis couldn't win the playoffs before Budenholzer got to Milwaukee. He changed the offense. Budenholzer failed this year, but his resume is still strong. And yes, Brandon, his resume is still strong, which is all the more reason to me to suggest that this was desired, not only by ownership, but also by the players. How can it not?
Yeah.
Poke the holes in that. Because of what Brandon Katz says, he does have a strong resume. He did win a championship. He did figure out a way to maybe utilize Giannis more. All those things are true, yet he's unemployed today.
If Giannis wanted him there, he'd be there.
That's it. That's all.
Yeah.
And I know that, look, guys, I've told you this before. My weakest trait, I think, as a person is that I'm lazy. But I think it helps me because I cut the shit, right? I will find the easy answer to the toughest question because I'm lazy. I had a guy I worked with before that told me, his name was Gordy, greatest line of my life I ever heard. Give your toughest assignment to your laziest person because he's going to find an easy way to do it. That's me.
Yep.
I am him when it comes to that.
That's fair.
It fits, right?
Yeah, there's no reason. When you look at Mike Budenholzer's resume, I said that he could end up being a Hall of Fame coach someday. There's no real reason why he should have been fired even with this last flameout. But why was he? And that's what you keep saying, because I can't find a real legitimate reason. Yeah, he was outcoached by Eric Spoelstra in this series, even though Giannis Antetokounmpo was out for half of it. But still, that shouldn't get you fired. But maybe they think that he's harming the team with his decisions.
And I just think where they are with Cade Cunningham right now, in the perfect world, and it's not always a perfect world, but the grandiose idea that Cade Cunningham will have that trajectory, right? The Giannis-type trajectory, it'll be a similar setup. And that's why I just don't for whatever reason he's not there, I don't think it's a fit here. So that's why I get into it. So yes, F. Jakes, can you guys buzz my computer when you get off the NBA? Sorry, we talked about the Pistons for a second because it was a nationally relevant story. My apologies. Hey, to make up for it, we'll do a Lions nickel package, everyone. Give me the football. Give me the football. We'll give you the football coming up in just a couple of seconds after Sam Flannel.